to blur my background or something like that?
If you have green background, you can put some pictures here, but
Otherwise, no.
Yeah, otherwise, no.
There is some kind of emulation of a green background, but it says that
no, I believe it doesn't work. So you need chroma key behind you, otherwise it doesn't work.
So in this case,
not Microsoft Teams yet.
Yeah. Okay. So hello, welcome. So we're gonna do a short introduction and do some chit chat with Vladimir and yourself here. Just prep, see if pop-ups are somewhere, and make sure no distractions. So yeah, I mean it will be a smaller video feed, but no problem there.
Yeah, I know. I will just.
Okay. So outside of the CV you left there, I see you've been active and logging for a while. Anything you want to mention, or we're gonna pop during the introduction, maybe?
And what is the right way to pronounce your name?
It's Radu Vunvulea.
Radu Vunvulea?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Let me also share my screen to be sure that everything.
Yeah, test that.
So I think that.
Yeah, you can close Slack and some other applications you don't need, so keep it clean. This one you need, just minimize it.
Well, basically, it's only the things that I need here. So everything else.
Also, you can click that window to close at height. If you see, on the near the presentation in the can you see the window?
Yeah,
it's down.
Yes, I can see it.
You cannot see it?
No, I can.
It's on the bottom.
Yeah, that's the thing around the comments.
That one.
It's kind of a.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's one. Thank you.
Yeah, it popped up on one of the sessions there. So you actually live in Cluj-Napoca, or you're?
Yes, I'm based in Cluj. Basically, I was born in Cluj, and even I'm doing a lot of travel. I never thought about moving somewhere else. It's a pretty well-located city, and now this is pretty fine.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of years ago. Iași and Cluj were the first two places I've ever been in Romania.
Okay. Have you been at a conference?
Yeah, Ingram Micro had a conference there. I was working for them, and I did a session on Azure and for partners, so it was kind of a couple of days.
Guys,
but I know when Lava has a base of operations there, so yeah. So here. Okay, Vladimir, you start, and then I'll.
Okay, you'll pick up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I get baffled when live feed comes up.
Welcome back to our track. I hope you're enjoying conference so far. And I would like to introduce Radu Vunvulea, who is our next speaker. He's technology enthusiast and working in cloud delivery. Am I right, Radu? So please.
Yes, I have my hands full on cloud and everything that is around cloud nowadays.
Okay, we see there you're a blogger, a community person as well, Azure MVP. Was it 7 years in a row? Yeah.
Yeah, 7 years in a row, and starting from this month officially, I'm also Microsoft RD regional director.
So, congratulations!
Congratulations. Okay, so without further ado, shall we let the floor to your capable hands?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
okay, talk to you later.
So first of all, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for joining the session. And I hope that in the next 50-55 minutes, you will find interesting things and you will discover the power of cognitive services and how we can improve our business, our internal application, or add an extra value to our customers using Azure Form Recognizer. Well, if you have any kind of questions that you would like to ask me, or you want more info about something that I'm covering and I might not being able to help you in the next 1 hour, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and I'm more than open to share my knowledge or my view on different topics. Now, before going forward, I would like to challenge you a little bit and to think about something that Gandhi said a few years ago, that be the change that you wish to see in the world. And especially if you're working on IT nowadays, you have so many services, you have so many products and options to do a change, to improve the way how you pay your grocery at the supermarket, how you pay the taxes, especially nowadays when most of us are working from home and we have the social distance, or any other things. And think about systems and services that you could use that are very simple, very basic, and without too much investment, you can bring the most benefit to the customer, to yourself, or to anybody else. And this is why I would like to focus more now on trying to identify the right services where with a very small amount of investment in time, in development, in integration, licensing costs, and things like that, you can maximize your benefit. And think about the future, it's a blend. Nowadays, we are not talking only about one operating system, only about one cloud provider, one type of storage, and things like that. Future is a blend, and especially it's a blend between classical business application. Even if they're running some microservices and serverless, there are still very classical approaches to resolve daily business. And on top of that, we have nowadays trends like ML and AI, and the way how they are boxed on top of other services, and the way how, for example, now we can do an OCR system in 1 or 2 minutes using a cloud provider like Azure and cognitive services, versus 5 years ago where you had to being on Google or Google on Bing to try to find some free OCR packages, configure them, train them, and things like that. And it usually took a lot of time, maybe 1 or 2 weeks at least. This is something interesting, and this information is from November or December last year, so even before having the COVID. And think about it, 60% of the people prefer to chat with a bot, not to interact with a human being. And it's pretty shocking, but also at the same time makes us think about, okay, how we can improve the operation, the support, the system that we are providing internally to our people, or externally to our customer, or things like that. And the way how people might prefer to talk with a bot, and if they ask how much money I have in my account, they would prefer a bot to automatically respond to this thing without, for example, somebody, a real human, take a look in their account balance and say, well, you have minus $100 or you have plus 10K. Beside this, next year in 2021, 80% of emerging technologies will have AI foundation. What does it mean? It means that most of the new things, new products that you might be involved or you might work on could use directly or indirectly AI. And why I say indirectly? Because, for example, if you are a Visual Studio developer and you're using Visual Studio, you already might directly have some recommendations based on an AI system, or for example, when you're going maybe on an e-commerce application or a cloud portal and you're looking, well, what kind of services I should spin up or what things I could buy, then some personalization could run behind the scene and only know your profile, from which group of people you are, and doing some recommendations based on that. And of course, we already know that data is very powerful and it's the new gold of our era. But still, if you don't have the right search capability, if you cannot do search very fast, optimized, and to identify trends, patterns, and things like that, you have the gold, but you cannot mine it. You cannot extract it from the storage. And new ways of doing search now becomes more and more mainstream. If, for example, 10 years ago, doing a search on 1 terabyte of data would be pretty crazy and would take a few hours, not even days. Nowadays, you can do this kind of search pretty easily without too many costs. Now, having this context, let's see what about the airplane body and why. During last year in September, I had a great opportunity to visit Colombia, Bogota, and Medellin. This is a picture that I took in Medellin. Basically, it is Columna 13 that I expect that most of you have seen some movies or TV shows. And it happened something interesting in Medellin, and it was pretty impressive and shocking for me. I'm based in Romania, but I used to do a lot of travel, and I hope that in the future I will still be able to travel very easily all around the globe. And I met a woman called Christina in the office. She presented herself. We had some small talk and so on. And after a while, I think after 2 or 3 hours, because we were in a different meeting and different stream of discussions, we realized that both of us, we are from Romania. We are from the same city, Cluj, where I'm based in. And the only difference is that we are from different departments. We are based on different levels of the building. But basically, we are 2 people from the same city that are visiting another office that was based in Medellin. And also we were in Bogota at the same time without knowing about each others. And maybe we had opportunity, for example, to overlap our flyings from Cluj to Colombia and back, basically to not file down, or at least when you're in a city and you want to visit something, just maybe to ping other guys from the same company, and you could maybe book a tour, or at least if you have any kind of issues, they might help you, things like that. And I realized, well, it would be pretty interesting to build such a system that, based on simple information, like for example, based on the ticket or based on some emails, to identify and to notify, well, you know, Radu, you will fly with Christina and maybe Rob or David next 2 months, and you'll be in the same location as them for 1, 2, or 3 days. And maybe you would like to overlap your flight, and just wanted to let you know that when you are staying in Frankfurt, waiting for your connection, also other people from your company will be there, and maybe you want to chat with them because all of you will stay for 4 hours waiting your connection, things like that. So there are a lot of things how you can use it, but the tricky part is, okay, how you can extract this data, because this is the challenge. And this is my mission for today. Let's build a system. Let's build a system that is capable to identify the flights of different people that have the same destination or not, and to notify them in the case that there is an overlap and so on. And I will focus a lot on the data processing, basically extracting the data, analyze it, and trying to understand which represent useful data like name, flights, detail, destination, dates and time, versus other type of things like, for example, doing the match between 2 people. Because once you have this data, just having a procedure or a query that automatically look for the same date and for the same destination flight, it's pretty easy. It's not something that we wouldn't be able to do. And the biggest challenge that even in 2010 we have is related to data processing. and related to the OCR part, to extract the data, understand the data, and so on. And why? First of all, if we take a look on the flight tickets, and we'll take a look a little bit later, we will see that the format of the tickets, it's different. We don't have a standard format where all the time in the same location you have the name, the date, the time, the destination, flight information, boarding time, and things like that. Once you do the check-in, then yes, it is a pretty standard way of presenting the data, still with some small differences from airline to airline. But the electronic ticket that you might receive, for example, from the agency or from the airline company, may be a little bit different. I don't know if you notify, but for example, the electronic ticket that you're receiving, for example, from Lufthansa or from British Airways or from Wizz Air or from our local airline called Tarom or Blue Air, are different. Some of them are in PDF, some of them are in plain text format. In some cases, you have a table. In other cases, you have other kind of things. And you need to do two things. The first one is to do the computer vision, the OCR part. That, to tell you the truth, it's not so challenging because you will find on the internet a lot of open source solutions that work pretty awesome. They can do OCR very, very good. They can extract almost all the information that you have and providing you as text. Some of them are more evolved, and also they will provide you information like from the locations where they were extracted and things like that, or even the font and the size if they have bold and so on, for anything like that, and that will work pretty nice. But you will see that the real challenge would be once you have that simple text, that plain text, what you should do with it. Think about maybe that you're working for a company that is based in 20 different locations or 25 different locations. And in this case, you start to have challenges because you will use different agencies, different airline companies, and the format of the ticket will be different. And you don't want to rewrite or to add a new option for each airline and for each agency and so on. Now, form recognizer is pretty awesome. And why? Besides the OCR support, it comes with the capability of tagging and to understand what does that text represent behind the scene. So, for example, if we take a look on the ticket that we have in the right, this is the end ticket. But the idea is that he will be able to identify and to do some tagging like key value. Basically, for example, in this example, we have the key couple name, that is Jessica and David. And the value is Jessica and David. We have the key, the date, and the value is 13 August 2013. We have the destination. Sorry, 1 second. We have the destination as the key and the value Laguna Beach. We have the flight and so on. And this is why it's very, very powerful because it allows you to do the tagging and to identify the key and the value. And besides this, you can identify automatically when it's possible what is the type of the value. For example, if it's a string, if it's a date, if it's a number and things like that. So you already have some insights about the type of the data that you extracted. And besides the type of the data, also you have some insights related to what that data might represent. So if you're looking at the form recognition and what is allowing us to do, basically it's a very simple extraction system that is able to extract, to do the OCR, and also to analyze the data and to provide some insights related to the data and making the tagging between the key value, and also you can do some labeling, custom labeling on top of it, and you can train it by yourself. After that, you have the customized results, and you can specify exactly what kind of data you have, what you would need to expect, any kind of transformation on top of that. It's very flexible on the deployment, and we'll talk a little bit later on when we will see that you can also run it on the edge system or your own server, and this is pretty awesome. And the fourth thing has pretty out-of-the-box built-in security that is very useful at the moment in time when you start to have a custom deployment and you want to have a very basic integration system and all the audit from the security point of view. For example, with the GDPR and with all the things that are happening now, a very good example is what happened with Garmin. Now, yes, today they are back in business, but for the last 3 or 4 days, they were down. You have the basic security and audit system to be able to track everything that is happen, who done what, and things like that, and who have access to different things. And let's start with a very basic demo from their own site, and after that we'll jump to a little bit more complex things. And let's go to the cognitive services, and this is why I'm preferring to show to you directly the services that they have available on their website, just to understand exactly the power and what are their options that you have available at the moment in time when you want to start to use it. The most simple and the most basic form recognizer part is, for example, when you have an invoice, like for example this kind of invoice where you have the address, you have the invoice for, and you have some values. Now, once you start to use the form recognizer, it will provide you a JSON. It's pretty ugly. You need a little bit of time to start to understand it and things like that. But it's very, very easily to crunch it and to integrate it. And once you start to use it, you will see that it is able to identify key and value. For example, in this key, the key is invoice for, the value is the full information. And what is here interesting, and you might not notify this, that even if you have the value on multiple lines, he automatically detected that the invoice for and the address, even if it's in a little bit in a different format, he identifies exactly which is the key and which is the value. And also for the table themselves, he identified that it's a table. He identified that the table has only one header and one row and made a match one-to-one between the key and the value. We have the number, date, due date, and charges, and the VAT, and the values for each of them. Now, at the moment in time when you have a table with multiple rows, what he will do little things that will be different, and it's very important to know about this behavior, but you can configure if you want to have one type of behavior or the other. He will automatically extract, and he will be oriented on column-based, not on row-based. What does this mean? Beside the information that we have built to invoice and so on, from the value part, for example, it will have the items, and you will have the column with all the values in that column. After that, you will have the description, the same thing, quantity, and so on. And it might look pretty odd why it's not row-oriented, but in most of the cases when you do the calculation or data extracting and data processing, you will prefer to have column because it will be much more simple to you. Another very useful thing that you are receiving at the moment in time when you are playing with the form recognizer is the following. You have all the time the bounding box. And what does the bounding box represent? It is the exact location on the image or the document that you processed where that information was extracted from. So basically, it is location in pixels from where that was read. For example, bill 2, this is the location and the size. And thus, for the value, the same thing, controls the LTD that is over here. And also you have the confidence level. And the confidence level, if you use in the past an ML or a trained system, you will already know that it's between 0 and 1. 1 is the most powerful and very, very confident that he was able to recognize perfectly the thing that he processed. It is closer to 0, then the confidence is a little bit lower, and you might want to do some checking. Usually, from what I've seen, and usually how I recommend, if it's higher than 0.8, you could go without any kind of problem, and you can push the data automatically. In most of the cases, if it's under 0.8, and we will see an example that I have some cases where it is under 0.8, it is a good idea maybe to have another system that would do the check, or maybe a human interaction, or a human that would do the check and the validation. Even for documents that were scanned, I think like that works pretty well. And this is another thing that it's pretty nice and it's pretty powerful. I don't know if you are using, for example, when you have a report, when you go, for example, in a business trip, or used to go in a business trip, and you need to do to introduce in the system all the things that you buy, and to be able to make the recovery of the cost and so on. And you need to do pictures of different bills, and after that, to put in the system from which company you bought the product, how much was the date, and so on. What is interesting here is that this is done automatically. Not only this, but as you can see in the picture, the paper is not flat, so it has a little bit of angle over here. And I used to play in the past to do some optimization of some OCR system. And when you have this kind of situation and different colors and so on, you will do a lot of mathematical algorithms. So you need to take into account the vector, to modify the vector direction, and to take this into account when, for example, you read the surface plan or subtotal, to be able to exactly to change the vector direction to do the full read of it. So this was the basic introduction of form recognizer. I invite you to try to use it. Now, going forward, we have two different models that we can play around with form recognizer. It is the custom and the pre-built one. The custom models are the most powerful one. And why? Because you can train your model, you can analyze any kind of form, even receipts, or even custom like airplane tickets and things like that. It's very interesting that in most of the cases when you're playing with an ML system, you would need around 50, 100, maybe different samples to do the training. What is impressive here, that you need only 5 samples. So the training of the model needs only 5 samples to be able to train. And once you train the model, you can do some custom labeling on top of it if you need, and that's it. You can use it without any kind of issues. On top of that, there are some pre-built models like the one for receipts that is already know exactly to extract specific information, like the one we saw on the sample, like time and date, merchant information, items, values, taxes, and totals and things like that. Now, if you remember at the beginning, I challenged both of us from the beginning where does it run. First of all, it's run as a Docker container, and you can run it locally on your own system. So if you have, for example, a Kubernetes cluster on your on-prem or even on AWS or on GCP, well, you just can download the Docker container for form recognizer, deploy it on your own system and run it without any kind of problem. One thing here, he will need an internet connection, basically to report at a specific time interval the number of pages that you analyze. And we'll see a little bit later why this is important. And the second option, as you expected, because it's part of cognitive services, it is offered software as a service, where, as we'll see later on in the demo, you just have the URL, and from using the URL and the SDK or the API, you can play around and you can do anything around it. Now, the pricing model is the following. It's free for up to 400 or 500 pages per month. And what is important here to mention, it's pages, it's not documents. So if you have a PDF document that you uploaded and has 10 different pages, it will count as 10 different pages. So it's per page. Another thing, if you have a custom model, it will cost you around $25 for 1,000 pages, and if you have a pre-built one, then it will be $5 for 1,000 pages. Here I have a small typo. This is why I said it is important for the container that you might run locally to have a connection to cognitive services, basically to be able to report how many pages you analyze. And also the pricing model, if you are hosting by yourself, it's also much better because you don't pay anymore the computation. Now, if you are talking about the airplane body and to think about the solution that we could use to be able to do the full deployment, the full analyze, what I tried to do, I tried to define a solution that wouldn't use and wouldn't require to write a line of code. Not because it wouldn't be fun, but during nowadays we have so many tools, we have so many services available that you can fully integrate them without any kind of problem, especially nowadays with Office 365 and all the services that are offered by Office 365 and Power Apps, make you ask yourself if you need all these kind of things at the moment in time when you don't have, that you already have all the services, you have all the connectors, and the only thing that you need to do is just connecting connecting them in the right way, in the right segments, and configure them to send an alert and so on. So on one side, we have the internet, we have the automated flow, and we have the form recognizer. Now, first of all, what we need to do, and here it's an important thing, at the systems I analyze, all the tickets, airplane tickets that are bought and things like that are sent over the email to a specific group of people. Basically, it's an email group, and that is the perfect hook that I can use and to listen to that group of to the email group that is receiving from different agencies or from airlines the tickets themselves. And if I can hook at the emails, then I can start to process them and so on. So once you have that hook, and it's pretty easy to do it in the automation flow, you have the ticket that is arriving to the system as an email, but can be seen as a trigger, as a notification. Once you receive a new email, you have the trigger. And now it is important here to know that Form Recognizer can analyze two types of documents. One of them is PDF, and the second one is images. If you remember at the beginning, I said that, at least from what I've seen, all the tickets are coming in two different formats: text, plain text, or in PDF format. And to have the same format, to not have any kind of issues, maybe some of them will send them in documents, in a Word document or whatever other type. Then I decided, okay, I will have a convert to PDF converter that basically will convert anything to PDF. If it's an image, I can convert it to PDF. If it is a PDF, well, it's keep it automatically. And if it's a text file can be easily converted to PDF. After that, I will call the Form Recognizer to extract the data and focusing more basically on the name, destination, flight, and date. Nothing more than that, because this is the most important thing that I started to use. And I would get the response back to the flow. Once I have the response back to the flow, I can do the match. And to do the match is pretty simple, because in a storage, any kind of storage, you can think about Cosmos DB. You can even think about a plain text, like on a JSON format. In this case, I used Cosmos DB. I was just doing the search and doing the matching. Okay, I have a new I have a new input. I have a new flight. Let's see who others will fly on the same date and things like that. And after that, I would send an email notification to all the people that were doing the match. Now, to make things a little bit more interesting, we could integrate this with Teams. And why not to have a bot in Teams that would automatically send you a notification that you will fly at the same time with A, B, or C. And using the bot, you could disable alert or to specify don't notify me when I have a match for the given location and so on, or you could even have a grouping team that only people that are part of that group would be notified and so on. And after that, people will receive notification, and that would be all. As you can see, everything was based on automated flow, and for Recognizer, we don't have to do any kind of custom implementation and custom code. And also, a thing that I didn't tackle here was the GDPR and everything that is related to data topic from the legal point of view. It is something that I didn't cover because it's another discussion that we would focus more on the GDPR and other kind of laws from different countries, because one thing is in Europe, one thing is in US, another thing is in LATAM, another story is in China and Japan and Russia. So this is why I said, okay, let's take a view from the technical point of view, and we don't focus on the legal part and things like that, where we can let other people to handle this and things like that. Now, let's take a look on the demo and to take a look on how we can use Form Recognizer, how we can configure it, and how we can play around with it. Now, let's start, and let's assume that you already have a cognitive service instance for Azure Cognitive Services. If you are new and you didn't use it, Form Recognizer, a new instance can be very easily created from dashboard. Now it's pretty nice that it's GA. It's very easily to use it. And once you have it, the new instance, you can start to use it very, very easily. Here, a key point and something that you need to remember from the samples and so on, there are two things. You need, first of all, to have the key. And in this case, we will need one of these two keys. And the second thing is the endpoint, the URL. Especially, we will use curl from command line to train the model, to extract the data, and so on. It is very important to keep in mind that you need to use this endpoint and try to remember the name of the service. In my case, RVBody, because this is the key that you need to replace in different locations at the moment in time when you want to do the calls. Now, once you have this, the first thing that you need to do is to train the model. Now, at the moment in time when you want to train the model, one second. What are the things that you need to specify? First of all, it is the endpoint that you have available. The second thing, it is the subscription key that you can copy paste from the portal. And the third thing, it's an Azure storage location where you store the sample tickets that you would like to use. So in my case, if we go on the resource group, let's take a look on this resource group that I created. I have an RV ticket storage where I have a container, tickets container that was shared here with the shared access signature, where I have 7 different tickets. If you ask yourself, how does a ticket look like? Let's open one of the tickets. Let's download it. And this is how the ticket look like. 1 second to load. Okay, this one is from one of the agency. As you can see, you have the departure, you have the arrival, you have the flights information, and so on. And even if it's in a PDF format, you might already think that originally it was in text format, and was converted by myself in PDF for this sample. Now I'm sharing this with the form recognizer, and I will use curl. So first of all, at the moment when we will execute it, what is important to receive is 201 creating, and this is very important. 1 second. When I delete, I think I might miss some things. So we received 201 created. This means that the request was received, And what is now more important to take into account, it is the request ID, this one. And this you should save it. And why? Because using this request ID, you will use it later on to be able to see what is the current status of your model. And when you have an instance of form recognizer, you can have multiple models that you train. So as you can see, I already have the model that I trained previously, but also what I can do, I can take this key and replace it here. And now I will see the status of the model that I train it a little bit again. 1 second, copy paste. Sorry, this is the model ID. I copied from the wrong location. Okay. And I will put it here. And now let's see what is the output of it. And the output looks like that, look like this in a JSON format. What is important to take to look for it is for the status to be success and to not have any kind of errors. So if you parse it, it will look something like this. You will have the train result, and so on. Basically, it's important to have everywhere to have success and to have no errors related to it. This means that at this moment in time, we have the model trained, and we can start to play around it and to use it. Now, the second thing that you like to do, basically, it would be to see exactly or to analyze a specific document. Now, at the moment when you want to specify this, what you will need to use? You will need to use the model that you already have. In this case, let's use the model that we already trained a few seconds ago. And to replace the model ID with the new one, we have the subscription key and the location in a block where you have one of the tickets that you would like to process. So let's execute it. It will do the magic behind the scene. Now, another key of the output that you need to be very careful and to take into account and to store it, it is this one. And as you can see, it's part of the model. You have the model ID and you have the analyzer and then an ID for the analyze that represents the analyze of the ticket that we are now wanting to process. If you want to see the output and to see what is the current status of it, you will need to specify exactly the location ID that was specified here, plus all the time the subscription key. Now, if you're executing one more time, this is the output. That JSON, if you remember in the sample, that was looking pretty nice. Now the sample is more and more complex than that. And if, for example, if you would copy the JSON and we paste it in a Notepad or something similar with this, then we would be able to see the output in a more nice way. I already have the JSON output already processed. It is the same thing, but it looks a little bit nicer. And what we have the status that was with success, and we have the result. And this is the thing that it is interesting for us. It is important to know that it will display the things based on the pages. So in this case, as you can see, it was only one page number 1. If, for example, if you are doing a search after this, you will see that it from page 1, page 2, and so on. And also you have values. You have the key and the values. For example, we have the key where the value was booking reference, and we have the value over here, G68TAC. And also we have the confidence level. In this case, confidence level was 1.0. For the date, the same thing, 1.0. Well, here there are some tricky things. For example, the system is not perfect, and remember that we use labeling, so everything was automatically detected automatically. He detected the key is my name and the value was the date. And why this thing happened? If we take another look on the ticket that was processed, let's take, for example, this as an example, because almost all of them are the same. 1 second. What is tricky here and what is missing is the key. So for example, for the date, we have something like that, but on the ticket, for the name, we don't have a key. We don't have key like example name or something like that, or the customer and so on. And for the cases where you don't have a key, it's recommended to use a custom label or thing like that to be able to improve the way how to do the recognition. For other, like for example, departure, arrival, and so on, it works pretty well. Now we're taking a look after confident in the current document, for example, for this part where the key was the flight and the text was the number of the flight, the confidence level is under 0.6. Even so, the result is good, but the model itself didn't trust that he've done a very good matching between them. So remember that the confidence can give you some insights related to how well different things were detected. But when you have information where you don't have a very good matching between key and value, or the key is missing, because it's an out-of-the-box system, it might not work very, very well. But if you combine them with custom labeling, things would look pretty different from that. Okay, one more thing, and try to remember that you can play around very, very easily with it, and you can have multiple models. So one thing that you can do, you can play around using different input to train your model, or you could even think about a way how you can see, okay, how I can do the custom labeling in such a way to improve how the form recognizer would do. This is the output basically on the thing that we analyze, and what you can see here with red, there is the keys basically, or how an out-of-the-box model from form recognizer without any additional improvement identify the keys and the value. For most of the cases, the output was pretty good. Where he had issues in most of the cases was where the key was missing, like for example in the case of the name, or in the situations when the physical distance on the document between the key and the value, it's pretty big. For example, in this case, between equipment and Aerospatiale Alenia, they were not very close to each other. If you're looking on the output and on the output of the training that we use and how we analyze, we see that he identified 29 different keys and 28 different values. And for 28 keys, the mapping was pretty good, and he identified the mapping between them. And for one key without a value, there was the error, and I'm here referring to the key value between between the name and the value of the name. If, for example, now we go and take a look on the form recognizer, and this is something that if you're using the free tier might be pretty useful. You can see usually in real time how many pages you analyze and what is the current output. So, for example, in this case, if it was updated with success, we should see that we used around 2 pages to do the analyze. If it's already updated, there could be a small latency of a few seconds. Also, another thing that you should keep in mind is the location where you initialize the form recognize to be at the same location where you have the storage that you like to use, to be as close as possible to the proximity. As you can see, there is one page, and I still have 499 transactions available for the next 30 days. Now, I will skip these slides because I already have done the demo. This one were prepared in the case when things wouldn't work as expected. Just wanted to remember you, try all the time to remember the subscription key and to use it. Also, you will see if you go on Azure Form Recognizer curl samples. As I said at the beginning, try to remember the name of the service, because not in all the samples, not in all the codes, you need to replace the endpoint. So in some cases, you'll need to copy paste the full endpoint. In other cases, you need just to specify the name of the service. Another important thing that you need to remember: once you train the model, keep the ID of the model, and when you want to do any kind of analyze of a document, keep beside the model ID also the URL, the analyzer ID that you will need it later on to be able to see the current status and what is the output. Now, first time when I started to use Form Recognizer was in a Friday night. I think I started around 10 p.m. and I was mentally prepared to play around with 2 or 3 hours until I would have a working model with some output. And the interesting thing that impressed me was the following: I think that after 5 minutes of looking on the samples and doing the step-by-step guidance from them, I was able to have a working model, and I was able to extract the first output of a ticket that analyzed. And later on, I was also playing with the labeling part to improve a little bit the output of it. Now, in conclusion, what is important to mention and to remember is that it's an out-of-the-box form. It is out-of-the-box form recognition. You don't need to do any kind of customization. You pay per use, and the price is pretty good. It's very simple to train, and if you think about it, you need only 5 samples. It's pretty awesome and works very, very nice. A small optimization that I've done was the following. I have different models that I train depending on what kind of agency is sending me the ticket, or different models for each airline that is sending directly the ticket themselves. And why? Because in this way you can optimize the model and you can get the best results. In the sample that we used, and we used 7 different models, what is here important to mention that even if all of the tickets were from the same agency, they were a little bit different, because even the airline tickets have small difference from one to another. Also support multiple formats. You can use it software as a service without any kind of issue. And what is pretty awesome, you can run it locally on your own machine or even on another cloud vendor using the Docker container. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any kind of questions, feel free to ask them or to contact me directly over Twitter and LinkedIn, and I will try to help you. And sorry for the noise that was at the beginning of the session. It seems that one of my neighbor wanted to cut their grass. So this is the life when you are working from home. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Radu. It was an engaging session. Yeah, full of details. I would also recommend the people to look at his blog. There's a quite vast number of articles there, and you might find a lot of stuff interesting. As far as I can see, there are not currently questions, but we're nearly the finishing time frame of the session either way. But let's stick around the chat for a little bit, a couple of minutes more, so might something pop up. But either way, yeah, you can still find Radu online, as most of us. Okay.
Maybe one question from somebody? No.
Oh, still nothing there in the queue. Well, we'll stick around, and if something pops up, we'll forward it.
So if we have some time, I just wanted to tell you a thing that scared me a lot at the moment in time when I was playing with the form recognizer from command line was this ugly output in JSON format. Even if it might not look awesome, if you are using for the first time and you have something more than 2 or 3 lines that you analyze, it will be pretty shocking because you will not be able to understand what is the output, how you need to understand it, and so on. So I highly recommend, for example, to use Notepad++ and to install a plugin like JSON Viewer that is able to do the automatically format of the JSON.
Yeah, it will make more sense definitely for people trying to see what's what, heads or tails. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, something is popping there, but still, yeah. Okay then, Radu, thank you very much for the extensive and detailed overview. Hope to see you sometime again.
Thank you for the invitation, and take care.
Okay, take care. So we're gonna continue with Georgia Kalaiva. She's a Microsoft AI MVP in the next session in a couple of minutes. So see you in a few.
See you soon.
For everyone who is upskilling this staycation, we have something very special. The Summer Learner Badger, and you can earn one for joining this event. Scan the QR code, which will appear on your screen, and claim your badger. Azure Heroes is a Microsoft program for recognizing community efforts.